Hi friends and welcome. My name is Anna Helman and this is the second video in a series I'm putting together on how to get started making cards and get started stamping. It can be extremely overwhelming. There's so many products on the market. There's so many complicated things out there. I heard from somebody recently that had almost given up on card making and then found one of my videos and she watched along and said, I can do that. And that's what I want to help you do. I want you to see that you can do this. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to have a million supplies. And in this video today, we are just going to make a few cards. In my first video, I talked about what supplies you actually need to get started. You do not have to have all the things. You do not have to invest thousands of dollars to get started. So I already covered that. In this one, we're just gonna make a few simple cards, show you some basic products, how to mount your stamps to the blocks, how to clean your stamps, just some really basic, simple things to get you started and make some nice basic cards. I hope you'll watch along. At the end of my videos, we always talk about something related to life, and today we'll talk a little bit about wellness, so I hope you'll stick around. We're going to make 3 different sets of 2 cards. So we'll make 2 cards with one stamp set, then we'll switch out to another stamp set. And as we go through here, I'll show you some different products that you can use that can really make it easier to get started making cards. So for this first set, we are using some pre-printed card bases and envelopes. So these came in a set. They were already prepared in the right size. They're already scored. The envelopes are here with them and they match, and that can really help to make it easier when you're not trying to cut and prepare your own card bases. So for this first one, we are going to use this stamp set right here. I chose a few stamp sets that I think are really great for beginners. And I like to use ones that include both some nice image stamps and some nice greeting stamps. So that's what we have here, and with the other 2 sets as well. Now, the first thing we have to do, a lot of times I don't show these things in my videos because I like to save time. I like to use your time as efficiently as possible when you're watching along with my videos. A lot of times I already have my stamps mounted to the acrylic blocks, but when you are learning, you need to know all of these things. I actually heard about a person who did not realize that these blocks could be reused and ended up giving up on the hobby because she thought she had to buy blocks for all of the stamps. That is not correct. We have moved ahead since stamps used to be mounted to wood blocks, and we have these acrylic blocks that can be reused. So when you get stamps, they are likely going to be between 2 thin sheets of plastic. I like to mount mine inside of the case to the inside so that I can just peel it off and then stick it back on. It saves a little bit of time when I am stamping. So that is one of my tip videos. I have so many other videos. You can browse around. You can click on my channel name below and browse through all of my other videos and find some of those. But let's do a little bit of stamping. I chose 3 colors of ink that I think coordinate nicely, and they coordinate with these card bases. So I have some Flirty Flamingo, some Garden Green, and some Crushed Curry. The green and the Crushed Curry, those are the same colors that match the card bases I have over here. And I've just cut 2 pieces of white cardstock that I am going to stamp on. So for this first one, I am going to make this actually look like a flower. I like this stamp set because for several reasons, but one, we can use these just as patterns and designs, or we can make them look like flowers if we want to. So that is what I'm going to do on this first one. I cut this square a little bit bigger than this stamp is. I did not measure it. I just laid it on my trimmer and cut the cardstock a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to use the circle stamp to stamp right in the center. Now, I do want to mention, if you get stamps and you're trying to stamp and the ink is not sticking to the stamp, or it just doesn't look quite right, when these stamps are new, a lot of times you will need to clean them or the ink may not stick quite right. So I'm going to show you, you can use some cleaner, you can use a chamois. I'll pull my chamois here in a second and show you that. That's how I clean my stamps most of the time. But how I oftentimes prepare my stamps when they're brand new is I ink them up and I just stamp on some scrap paper, and then I press and twist it a little bit. A lot of times there's a residue from the manufacturing process that prevents the ink from sticking quite right. Doing this is a really easy way to get that off. Now here's my chamois that I use to clean my stamps. I love this for several reasons. It's inexpensive and it doesn't require any kind of continual costs. Like if I use my Stampin' Scrub with my Stampin' Mist, occasionally I have to repurchase some of that mist. This, I just wet it down with water each time I use it, and it is ready to go. I just press my stamp to it, it pulls that ink right off, and my stamp is clean. And you can see my chamois is not. It used to be pretty and purple, and now it's covered in lots of colors of ink. But it still, it has worked for a long time, and I'll be able to keep using it for a lot longer. So I have this piece prepared for one of my cards. Now let's prepare this other one. And I wanted to use several of the different stamps as some different patterns on here. So let's do this one in green this time. I'll stamp once up here, stamp a second time down here, and clean my stamp over here to the side. Now let's do this one in pink. And as you get started, I just encourage you not to overthink this. This is kind of a fun way to create pieces for your cards. Just pick a few different stamps, just start stamping them all over the place. As we make these cards, you'll see several different techniques for how to design them. If we're stamping maybe just the background, or maybe we're stamping a pattern like this, or like the flower we just did kind of as a highlight. I think I will fill in the centers here with some pink this time, so it looks a little different. And we have these pieces prepared. So let's pull these card bases back in, and we can start to assemble these cards. So you'll need some adhesives when you're making cards. I highly recommend a tape runner of some sort. This is my Seal Plus. I have a Seal and a Seal Plus that both fit in the same case. I really like my Seal Plus because it's nice and strong. I don't have to use much of it at all. So we'll attach this here. Let's go ahead and attach this flower to this card. And I think I want it to, I could put it on square, top, bottom, play around with where you put these pieces. There's no right or wrong. So we'll put that up here. And to finish these cards off, I decided I would pull in these ephemera packs. These are something that can really make it easy to make cards as you're getting started. They are pre-made, pre-punched die cuts that I have greetings here, I have words, I have flowers. They come in different packs with different themes. These are just all kinds of cute little trinkets and treasures to add, tags. So I thought for these, I would just finish them off with 2 of these tags because they're just easy to use. And can make it quicker and easier to finish a few cards as you're getting started. I like that. Better days ahead. And how about Shine On? I like some of these general greetings like this because shine on, this could be anything. It could be encouragement. It could be you know, some kind of congratulations, like a graduation. Could be used for all kinds of occasions. Now, I can use my tape or my glue if I want to for these, but I really do love to use some foam dimensionals a lot of times to pop up my greetings. This really adds something extra without extra work. And I love that when it comes to my cards. I love to make them look really nice without spending hours on them, right? That, knowing how, as you watch card making tutorials, you will find lots of them that get very detailed, very involved, and it's so much fun as you get into card making and you get comfortable with it. You likely are going to want to try the tools and the techniques and all the fun things, but as you're starting out, it's just too much. So we're keeping things simple here. So here they are with those coordinating envelopes. We have our first two created with this Round We Go stamp set. So let's move on to our next two. And I absolutely love this stamp set. It is called Latte Love. Anybody out there love coffee? Now for this one, for this set, we are going to use just some white card bases and envelopes that were already prepared. So here are the envelopes. We will be able to stamp those to match if we want to. And I have a couple of ink colors prepared here. We're going to use Lost Lagoon and Pecan Pie. And so for these, I'll show you how to start with just plain white, and we're going to decorate these and cover them to make some complete cards. So for this first one, I am going to use this cute mug stamp, and I am going to stamp all over the background of this card. Let's do these in different colors. So we'll stamp some with that pecan pie. I cleaned my stamp. Now let's stamp some with the Lost Lagoon. And I'll fill in this corner down here with one more with the pecan pie. Now I have a little stamp that fills in the coffee on top. So let's stamp that on all of them. And if I like to do color variation on my cards, so let's stamp in the brown ones, I'm going to stamp the darker, and then in the blue ones, I'm going to stamp the lighter. Without re-inking, we can get these color variations. So this is actually a great way. Anytime you're doing this, if you stamp off the edge, see how the ink is not the same anymore. So I am going to re-ink at that point. And then when I need my faded here, I'll just stamp on my scrap paper and stamp here. But this is called stamping off, where you get the lighter and the darker with the same color of ink, but it's a really great way to extend the use of your inks. If you only have one or a few colors of ink, by stamping off, you can make it look like you have more colors, which is great. Okay, now let's stamp another one. I'll take this stamp off of my block. Here is another, here's a top view of mug. And this time I am going to stamp them all in this color, and the Lost Lagoon. This is a technique I use a lot, where I just stamp across the back of a card. Sometimes it's the same thing all over. Sometimes it's a lot of different things, like the flower one we created with all those different stamps. Now we have two really cute stamps we can use to fill in the drink, the latte. And here's a tip: when you may not have very many blocks in your collection, you may just have one. But you can, if it's big enough, you can mount, well, you can always mount stamps to both sides if you want to. And that can make it a little bit easier, so you're not trying to pull, not having to pull them off every time to re-stamp with another stamp. So we'll stamp those 3. Now let's get some color variation, and I will remount this so it is the right direction for me. Okay, let's get some color variation. This is a very basic technique again, the stamping off. And one more here down in the very bottom. Okay, so aren't these cute, these backgrounds of these cards? And then I already prepared the greeting tags. Let's go ahead and add them. I wanted to show you how I save my scraps of paper, and a lot of times I'll use them for greeting tags. So this one just happened to be the right size. This one, just thought I would show you. I just snip these off with my scissors. And usually they're pretty straight. Things do not have to be perfect in card making. That's probably one of the first things I would encourage you to try to embrace, is your cards do not have to be perfect. And I kept this to show you something. When I stamped the first time, it wasn't quite right down here. It messed up a little bit, and it was probably good enough to use. But I thought I would show you, a lot of times if something doesn't stamp right, I just flip it over and I stamp again. I think that's why paper has 2 sides, right? So that we can flip it over and stamp again. So I'll put some dimensionals on here. Now, if you want to step these up, of course, you could add a layer behind the greeting tags. Maybe you outline the greeting tag with one of the colors that we were using of some cardstock. Maybe you add a strip of ribbon running up the side. We will add a few rhinestones here at the end. We'll bring these cards back in and we can add some rhinestones. But aren't these adorable? And they were so easy to create just with those white cards and bases, the 1 stamp set, 2 ink pads, and a couple of scraps of paper here with our adhesives. Okay, last but not least, we are going to stamp with 1 more stamp set. This one is called Pocket Thoughts. I like this one because anything that could be used for assorted occasions. So we have the cupcake, which could be celebrating for a birthday or a wedding. Here we have the rings for wedding. We have graduation. And then the greetings could be used for all sorts of things. These occasions plus other ones as well. Now for these, again, I decided to use some pre-made card bases and envelopes. And for this one, these have some nice gold accents on them. Here are the 2 pieces I am going to stamp that I've already cut. And when I was doing this, I mentioned before, I didn't really worry about my measurements. For this one, I just made sure it was big enough for the things I'm going to stamp on it, a cupcake and a happy birthday down here. And this one, I made it the right width so I can stamp the diploma several times down the front. So let's mount our stamps and we'll bring in our ink colors. This time we are using Misty Moonlight and Pebbled Path. So let's mount this diploma first, and we can do this again. We'll stamp once and twice to get the lighter and the darker. As you can see, I don't worry too much about my spacing. This is a technique I do a lot, and I just go. Sometimes the spacing doesn't end up quite right. That's okay. I tell myself that when people get these cards and they are looking at them, they're not going to pick out those little imperfections like, oh, that's not straight. They're just going to be excited that I made them a card, you know? And that's one of the most fun things about card making, especially as you're getting started, is when you give somebody a card and they say, did you make this? That's a pretty fun feeling when someone is amazed that you made something beautiful and you shared it with them. Now let's stamp the cupcake on this other piece. So do that with the pebbled path. Then let's stamp the happy birthday with Misty Moonlight. And these are called two-step stamps, when there's one that stamps the first time and then something else that you're going to fill in with. So I am going to ink this with the Misty Moonlight, but I think that will be a little bit dark. So let's stamp off and fill in. Now, as you're doing this, I encourage you, again, not to worry about lining everything up perfectly. With most stamps, even if it's not lined up perfectly, it is still going to look nice. And in a lot of cases, they're actually designed not to need to line up perfectly. So we have these prepared. I did already make the greeting for one of these for this card, and I just thought I would show you. Here it is. I end up with a lot of these strips left over when I cut mats for the insides of my cards. So I save them, and a lot of times they work out perfectly for some of these smaller greetings. Okay, so we're going to use the card bases that have some of this gold foil on them. I also thought another fun way to add a little bit to these cards without a lot of work was to use some of these pre-printed Memories and More cards. I love these. Some of the sides have greetings on them, and others just have, you know, basic patterns and colors. But these come in a lot of different themes. Here's a different pack, but this was the pack I thought would look nice with these. And we are just going to cover that greeting up for this one. And for this one, let's add one of those in the background. So I don't even have to cut these out. Now, if you, when you want to branch out a little bit, start cutting some paper, you can cut paper to the size that you want. But as we're getting started, if we want to keep it easy, we can just use some of these that are already pre-cut. So we'll add this. If I wanted to pop this piece up, I could. We'll just use our tape this time. And then this one, we'll put tape on the back of these two. And here you can see one of the ones I'm covering up. And now I'm questioning, do I want to use this? Oh, I think I do. When things have, when paper has two sides, sometimes it's hard to choose which one because a lot of times they're both so pretty. But I'll change my mind. We'll flip it over. I just love these blues. Again, placement of your pieces is not, you don't have to worry about making it perfect. They can go anywhere. You get the creative liberty, right? As the creator, you get to put it wherever you want to. Let's pop this piece up again. And then we'll bring in some rhinestones. We'll bring all of these back in and decorate a little bit. So here are these two that we made with the Pocket Thoughts stamp set. So let's bring these back in. I have some rhinestones here. And here's a tool that I absolutely love. I use it for all kinds of things. My Take Your Pick tool. I'll show you in just a second how it works. It has 2 ends, and then this end has a removable piece that you can actually interchange it with one more piece. But this end has a sticky tip. So it's perfect for placing gems, especially if you have a hard time with your hands, if you have a hard time picking up small pieces, or if you get shaky at all. This is perfect. We'll put a couple over here. One up at the top. So here are these 2 finished ones. One of the things I love about these pre-printed cards is they come with the coordinating envelopes. I mean, this looks pretty impressive, right? And it was really easy to create. Anyone could do this. Let's bring our first 2 cards back in. Let's add a few rhinestones to them. For this one, sometimes I get stuck in a rut and I'm always putting my gems in the same place. So I'm trying to branch out here a little bit and show you some different ideas. For that one, we'll put them right in the center. For this one, let's put them in the centers of some of these cute little, they look like asterisks to me. Okay, so here are these 2. And then for our coffee cards, I bet you can't wait to see the coffee cards finished. I cannot wait to see the coffee cards finished. So let's add a few to these. And then I said we were going to stamp these envelopes so they coordinated, and I did not do it. So we will do that and finish them up. So we give you lots of different ideas for how to place gems. Here I just use those 2 little ones. This one over here we use all different sizes and just spread them out like that. And let's bring our scrap paper back in, and I'll show you a couple of different ways to stamp envelopes. So for this one, we'll stamp that mug again, but we'll just do it across the flap. So we'll do it like this. And I will just use one of these. We'll do the one with the heart. So this is cute, right? So now that coordinates with the card. And let's stamp one to coordinate with this other card. Another great way to stamp your envelope is to just stamp down in the bottom corner. So for this one, we will stamp the cup. And we can fill it in with this one right here. So pretty fun and easy, right? I want to keep this simple to help you get started. This is such an amazing hobby that can do so many good things, help you through hard times, encourage you, give you something positive to focus on, give you something positive that you can share with others to brighten their days, to bring some light to them. So I hope to make it simple enough to help you get into it. All right, friends, it's time to talk about life. So today I thought we would have a little wellness topic. If you watch along with my videos, you know I've been on a wellness journey for quite a while. I had gotten tired of some health problems. I didn't have anything serious, but I had some nutrient deficiencies. I had been deficient in iron, and then at another time potassium. I had no idea how bad nutrient deficiencies could make you feel until I experienced them. But that actually is a good lead into what I wanted to talk about today. And that is nutrient deficiencies that sometimes So sometimes I trip over my words, but I feel like it would make a lot of sense if when we go to the doctor, one of the first things they would do to check would be to check to make sure we are not deficient in vitamins and minerals. In a lot of cases, that is not happening, and a lot of the health problems that people are struggling with actually come from basic things like nutrient deficiencies. The vast majority of us are likely deficient in something or maybe multiple somethings. I've done a lot of reading of some holistic doctors. There are a few that I really trust their information, and they're claiming that we overall as a people, we are so deficient in nutrients. Partially because the food we eat is very lacking in a lot of cases. When food is processed, in a lot of cases, the good parts, the nutrients are taken out, and what's left is what tastes good and is not nourishing our bodies in a lot of cases. But just to give you a couple ideas, vitamin D and iodine are two that I have read that almost all of us are probably deficient in those. Vitamin D, our bodies were actually designed to make a lot of nutrients in a lot of cases when our bodies are working properly. But as things go wrong and we get off course, then our bodies can lose the ability to make those nutrients. But get out in the sun and our bodies make vitamin D themselves. So that is one way to help with our vitamin D levels. But I just thought I would mention this. I've talked several times about iodine. The vast majority of us, according to what I read, are deficient in iodine, and just supplementing iodine has helped people with all kinds of health problems, thyroid problems, breast cancer, all kinds of things. So I encourage you to look up some of these other videos, start doing some research yourself. There's so much good information in books if you are struggling with health problems or just tired of being tired and tired of not feeling good. Encourage you to start doing a little looking and stick around for any of my videos, because I'm trying to share some of these things that have helped me that I hope can help someone else out there as well. Thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate you. I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.